Blue face, baby. Yeah, I'm every woman's fantasy. Mama always told me I was gonna break hearts. I couldn't surf off stupid. Don't be mad at me, I wanna see you bust down. Bend that shit over on the deck. Yeah, make that shit clap. She threw it back, so I had to double back on the gang. Smacking high off the drug. I tried to tell myself 2 times enough. And the nigga relapsed on the dead lows. Ain't no running, Tatiana. You gon' take these damn shows, Tatiana. I think you pussy up, now it's a murder scene. Keep shit player, Tatiana, like you ain't never even heard of me. But bust down.
Totally did not mean to play the intro right there. That was supposed to be a 30-second countdown, but no fucking worries. We're here. Dave Levison in the building. Unfiltered Reptiles Podcast, episode 53. Fluff and Grove, my boy Dave. And Dave, got to say, you facilitated yet another amazing guest for tonight. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. How you doing, though?
Doing good. Feeling good. Looking forward to talking to Tristan, man. I've talked to him about this 2 years ago, about having an interview about him.
I mean, just to kind of give people a quick insight what we have to look forward to tonight. I mean, I have an idea as far as what I want to ask Tristan, but what would you feel like you're most excited to maybe learn about Tristan tonight that you may haven't asked him yet?
Honestly, there's a lot of shit I didn't ask him. It's going to kind of go as we go, but really just kind of want to talk about the development of his company. Like I said, I got to watch him come up over a few years working in the Southeast at the same shows, and guy went from a one-table setup to one of the biggest setups at most of the shows I go to. So I want to hear about how he got there and how he did it so fast.
Beautiful. So do I. Well, before we get rocking and rolling, I got to say shout out to the sponsor, Cold Blooded Cafe, #1 frozen thawed rodent company in the game. $30 flat rate shipping. Day one pink, mammoth rats, straight to your doorstep. Shout out to Dez. Shout out to Steven. Shout out to the entire Cold Blooded Cafe team. Let's go. All right. You know what? Without further ado, I think we're just going to roll right into this shit because my man's hanging out tight. And here we have Tristan from Gecko Junkie. What's up, Tristan Kaylor?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Thanks for being here, buddy. How you
Absolutely.
living?
Thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate you guys having me on. And like Dave said, we have talked about this for 2 years. And 2 years ago, we kind of came up with this idea. So it's great to see it come together.
Listen, Dave is no stranger to who you are, obviously. I'm not going to lie. I'm sort of a stranger to you in a sense. But I want to know, how did Gecko Junkies even become about? And I want to go right into it. You know what I mean? How did this all become?
Yeah, for me, it actually, I guess I like to always go back to when I was a child. And the fact that my mom let me have other reptiles kind of really is what even got this whole thing started and gave me a passion for reptiles in general. And so I had different species growing up. And then I went to an expo in 2009, I want to say. I went to Scott Smith's All Animal Expo, and I had been to that show before when I was a kid, and actually had dirt floors. And I just ran into crested geckos and kind of fell in love with them, and kind of took it from there. Really, to just really get right to the point. That's kind of how it all started.
Now, my really thing is like, how the hell do you afford all this shit? Anytime I see that somebody's doing this for like a full-time gig, like, I'm curious on how they even got that money to do it. You know what I mean? And I'm curious on like how you were able, like what job were you working at the time, or where do you work now? Like, how are you able to fund this, what you got going on right now?
Yeah. So when I first started buying crested geckos, that's kind of what, leads me to crested geckos in general. That's kind of the backstory of the business. Wow. Is that, for example, with me, when I moved out of my house, I had a bunch of animals, and I learned really fast it was going to cost a lot of money to take care of those animals. It wasn't, mom and dad there to help you pay for food and stuff like that. So you're not really seeing that. And then I ran into crested geckos, and that's what really made me fall in love with them specifically, is the ease of the care. And so I was, just a hobbyist for years and years and years, working just different jobs here or there. But when the business actually started, I was working 3 jobs. I was serving tables, which was pretty good money. You're kind of in control of your own money when you go to work, and you come home with cash, on hand. And was just working some side jobs and started doing shows. So that's really when the business started. Essentially, I was just serving tables and working some side jobs, doing some landscaping and some tree work.
And at what age were you were you, at the point you were able to look at this as a business? How old were you at that time?
So that was still kind of like a hobbyist type mindset. I had the reptiles, I had the crested geckos for a while. So I bred them from 2009 till 2012. I was breeding them and I was hoarding them essentially. I would tell buddies of mine and things like that, because I had seen, that people can make some money at the shows, because I would go there and obviously purchase them. And that's kind of what gave me the mindset. Well, I may make, some sales here and there, do this for fun. I just always wanted to produce, something. I didn't know what it was. And I fell into crested geckos. And that's kind of what got it started in that sense,
Right.
Okay. So with your business, again, you started with crested geckos. The animals got you in the game. What were a couple of the first product lines you started putting on your table before you did your big expansion?
So we started doing shows, and at that time, to be honest with you, I had just moved from Chicagoland area. So I had known about Tinley. I had never been to Tinley, but I had known about Tinley Park, and I moved south to Tennessee, and I started hearing about Repticon. That's when I went and did a few Repticons. First put geckos on the table, and if you kind of go to my Instagram, you can see how fast and how rapidly it grew, because when I went to the shows, you actually get to talk to people and hear some of the things that they're looking for. So obviously, carrying crested geckos, the first things that you would hear is, do you have the food to feed them? Or do you have, something to house them in? And I went back right away to me being on the other side of the table and thinking, okay, how do I make this easier for the customer? And so I added Pangea. We started making little crested gecko tub kits that were kind of just simple, had the plants and everything. It was already done for them in those kits. And we added a few things that were pretty simple, just decals and some t-shirts. So that was really the beginning stages of what we started adding.
Okay.
Awesome.
About how many product lines do you think you run right now at the shows?
I would say we run probably 8 to 10 different brands, essentially, product lines. But I mean, obviously we carry a wide variety of products within those companies. So I don't know. I've never really thought about it like that. I would say upwards of 500 different products, essentially.
Nice. And you have a crew of guys that help you out, and you have some weekends you do more than one show. How many guys do you have working with you?
Yeah, so we bounce around a couple different shows. I have at every show, I have 2 to 3 guys with me. If we go to the big shows, we usually try to team up. I have another guy that runs around, and he's more or less a distributor of the product. And so he kind of runs under his name, but he's also tied in with us and carries a heavy amount of our product. And so we kind of team up. So at the bigger shows, I bring in a couple different guys. We'll have anywhere from 6 to 9 guys at, a Tinley show if we know that it's going to have a good turnout and we need to really service the customers. So
nice.
I have a question real quick, as far as like obviously you have experience selling certain product lines and whatnot. One thing that I realized that I enjoyed doing, but I didn't, was selling merch, like sending off shirts. And I feel like obviously if I do the work myself, I could gain at least some profit off it versus letting a company do it for me. What do you do? Like, how are you sending out your merch and stuff like that? How are you delegating that?
So actually it all kind of started in-house. I got lucky. My mother-in-law, that's what they have done for years. They've printed decals. That's where kind of, if you look at the booth and you see how the booth has evolved and all of the signage we have and all of that, that's, kudos to my mother-in-law. She helps me with all that. So I guess it's kind of nice that we have that in-house, and they started helping me do the t-shirt thing. Now we outsource it to a guy over in Pakistan. He's really great. He's done all of our sublimation and stuff like we have now. So essentially it started in-house, and then now we use a guy overseas that helps us with bulk and stuff like that. So.
Oh, wow. So are you essentially still shipping it out yourself, or is this guy overseas doing like, or are you actually, you're still getting the product in and doing all the printing yourself is what you're saying?
Correct. Well, no, it comes in. Actually, it comes in. It's really nice. It comes in. It has our tag in the back. It has a tag on it that has our website. It has our links to our Instagram, Facebook already on it. So obviously that's something, you know, in my opinion, marketing that with your brand is very important. And I feel like as a community, we could tie in to use this guy more readily to kind of help everyone buy from the same guy. So if anybody's interested in his contact, definitely reach out to me. We're open book on sharing that with anybody.
I mean, I understand, like, shit. Shout out to Blake Stewart, one of the sponsors of my other podcasts. But I had, you know, like, I love seeing people wear my shit. It's fucking awesome, like, especially at shows. And nothing gets me more excited. It's to the point where I don't even mind giving it away. Like, I'll do it for free. It makes me that happy, you know. But obviously, what I'm saying is, like, I'm getting a lot of people who want my apparel, and so but the thing is, I'm a fucking busy guy, dude, and shipping out all these shirts and stuff like that. As much as it's fun, it's a lot of work. So I'm trying to find the best scenario for me to where I could get people what they want. And like I said, I don't even care to make money off of it. Like, I just want people to rock my shit. And I'm trying to find out what the best solution is for that.
So it's funny you say that. I actually had an idea years ago. A few ideas I've had is one was, have you ever seen it like a baseball game? You go up to a baseball game and they've got the truck out there that's selling all the different jerseys and different players, essentially. I always had a vision. It would be really cool to have a trailer outside of the show before people could even get in. So like your VIP line could even access that, and say that one person ran that, whether it's the show promoter or, you know, someone like myself or anybody decided to do this idea. And essentially someone like yourself would give, you know, the rights to sell that product, and then you're getting promoted for free and everybody's rocking your shirt, and it's a win-win for everybody. So that's one idea I kind of had that seems fun, and maybe it'll come about one day. So,
I mean, if you really think about it, if you go to all these concerts and shit, who are the people fucking killing it? The ones in the parking lots, the ones that are like, you know what I mean? And like, you know, they're doing it illegally. God bless them. You know what I mean? Like, and like here, if I give someone the permission to go ahead and do that and just do all that groundwork at shows and like people in lines, and whatnot, oh man, that would be so ideal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I've done some cool things before too. And with the VIP lines we do hand out shirts, you know, and it's nice to see people walk in and they're already representing, you know, your business or even other people's business. When you see people walking around wearing shirts that are within the industry, it feels good to see that, you know.
Speaking of other people's business, what is going on, Dave? I'm giving you a lot of time here, bud, and I don't know what you're doing.
What do you mean? I'm in the conversation.
No, I need you back in your seat, pal. I mean, this is like, you know, like it's distracting. You're like, look like
Tristan. This my fault.
You look like you're in a dungeon. It's very creepy. Whatever's happening right now.
I live in a dungeon. I'm grilling. It's I gotta do my part as a man by providing food and nutrition.
So here's the thing, Tristan. Me and Dave are working out. We're just now starting to get used to each other. I love him to death. And you know, either way, look how good he looks. That's all that matters, right?
That's right.
All right, back to business here. Listen, I would like to talk to you more, maybe off camera, about the, you know, maybe another avenue I could take on selling merch. I don't want to make the whole episode about merch, but goddamn, I do want to figure that out. And Tristan, like you said, I want to walk in more and see my shit being worn at these shows.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
All right, Dave. Would you have anything? You ready to take over on the topic here, Dave?
Well, no, man, just kind of in detail what you were saying, though, because same thing came up with Goss. You know, there's just so much work to actually distribute T-shirts. A lot of people don't want to put that effort in. You know, when I thought about getting a T-shirt thing going years ago, I wanted to do T-shirts that kind of like represented different people's businesses. You know, different theme shirts, so on and so forth, just for the fuck of it. More of a brand that was for the community, as in you'd have in rock and roll or anything else.
Yeah.
And
I've done some cool things like that too. I did, if you remember back, Dave, I did the Repticon shirts with the schedules on the back, and then they had like different people's logos on the shirts. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of avenues you can take those shirt ideas.
Oh no, for sure. It's I think the biggest thing with shirts for me has always been it takes up a lot of room and a lot of real estate. And when your real estate's limited at the shows, how much you want to put into a t-shirt you're making $4 or $5 on. But I'm with MJ too. It feels good when you produce a product and see people wearing it around.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also too, like, I'm not at the point yet, where I have, 100 snakes being shipped out as far as what I'm producing. But at some point, I mean, nothing made me happier getting into this and getting a snake with the shirt in it. That was one of the happiest, like, those are the people I want to go spend my money with. I mean, I think Miguel Garcia is one of those people, obviously. Bought a snake from him. I had one of his Always Evolving Python shirts, which I knew were important to have. Like, I knew that was a shirt I wanted. So I really just want to have that kind of impact. You know what I mean? Like, just to, probably make someone's day even better,
Well, I think it's important. We started very, very early in our growth. That's something we really did very early, was we started doing shirts and decals and getting that into the hands of the people. And that way the name started to spread. Something that off topic from shirts, but just advertising yourself essentially at a show, that I think is a great idea. Actually came from my uncle, and he doesn't even, have anything really to do with reptiles. He just came to shoot the shit at the show, see what it was like. And he saw everybody walking around with deli cups, and he's like, how do I know where they bought the animal? So pretty much that was, I don't know, probably year 2 of me doing shows. And ever since then, every animal we sell, a sticker goes on the deli cup. So now that the people are walking around representing that animal as well, just in a deli cup.
Cool, man. I like that. Man, I always jump around with this. So kind of more with your business development. Like I said, and I give you a lot of praise for it, man, to see somebody go from what I consider a small scale to a big scale in a very short period of time. I mean, I really do appreciate what you guys did. A lot of respect for it. I want to hear about some of the growing pains, buddy, because again, you moved really fucking fast. There had to be things that went wrong along the way. I don't imagine it all went smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. So early on, obviously, we started doing shows, and that's back to what we were talking about earlier about, what jobs was I working at the time, and how did it all start? Was I had the job serving tables, and I only did shows within my region. Meaning like really within my state. That's the only ones I knew of. I lived in Chattanooga, so I did like Chattanooga Repticon, Atlanta Repticon, Nashville Repticon, and Knoxville Repticon. And that's where I met you, actually, was, I believe the first time was at the Knoxville Repticon.
Sounds right.
And then the show that I actually bought my first animal from you was the Crested Gecko, was the Nashville show. And one of the ladies working Repticon dropped, a schedule on my table. And I didn't even know that Repticon was as big as it was, or even the show circuit in general, and all the different names that I know now, and show promoters that I know now. I didn't know how big this was. And so when she dropped that schedule on my table, I just kind of went crazy, and anything within 6 hours, I was like, I'm going. And that's kind of just how it started, was like, I just pushed myself to where I was like, I'm going to go to the shows. I've got 2-3 jobs, doesn't matter. And anything I felt within 6 hours, I could be back to work on Monday and kind of get that routine going. And yeah, there's a lot of growing pains. One of them, I guess, probably the biggest one would be buying my first official truck. Because I was doing everything out of a Jeep, so you can only take so much stuff. We had a small trailer, and actually I would pack quite a bit of stuff in that trailer. We would, come there with everything in totes and have to put everything up, and had still a 6 or 8 table setup. But I guess probably the biggest growing pain would be I bought a Duramax, and we ended up broke down on the side of the road time and time again. It drains the bank, and you just don't know if you're going to make it. You don't know if this is the right move to make. But you just have to keep digging, and I just kept chasing my dream. And some other growing pains would be, traveling to far shows. I would hear some people, because I went all over the place. There was one year we did 52 different shows. So, I mean, that's cooking. We're pretty much on the road every weekend. And being on the road, breaking down, ended up stranded, out there on the road for a week at a time. You just have to find a way to dig and keep pushing and keep pushing and keep chasing that dream.
I mean, shit, I can't even lie about like the fear I even look at, just seeing Dave, how much Dave's committed to going to shows. And Dave, you have plenty of stories on road stories that you've gone through. And then for other people that you saved and picked up, a lot of crazy shit goes down on the roads.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I had nothing to say about that. It's all about you, Tristan. You tell me all your crazy stories. I'll save mine for another day.
I mean, carrying big trailers too. That's the difference. I mean, we run down the road with 28-foot trailers, so we're not just cruising in our car. So I mean, things I've had tires blow. You end up stranded on the side of the road for a few hours, or in a really bad spot, really tight spot that's really dangerous. And then, I mean, there's other adventures of going to shows and putting all your effort into it and putting all your cards in that basket, and you don't know how that show is going to play out. I've gone to shows before in the early days, and I'm taking a big gamble and putting all my, money in one basket to try to make it and try to make sure that it's going to do well. And I guess that's kind of something that helps push me as well. I go to those shows and I'm confident in my product. I'm confident in what I do. And I know at the end of the day, I have to make it work. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And when you have that, idea and you believe in yourself, it's going to probably pan out in your favor. At least it has for the most part in ours. And the passion is really what drives it. So.
Yeah. Man, that confidence piece is so important. I could tell you that much, because, here's the thing. A lot of people look at other people for them to believe in them, to be like, okay, I'm doing it right. But you're not always going to get that kind of fucking response, probably from nobody. Like, you got to believe in yourself, man. Obviously listen to your peers, right? Like, if you have a really terrible idea, like if your idea is just not good and it's like maybe due to safety or some shit, you should probably pay attention. But other than that, if you feel good about something, man, I said something earlier on my story this morning. And I'm just like, man, I remember there's times where like I felt like nobody was rooting for me but me, but at least I had me. Like, I was the one fucking telling me like, yo, this is, you're onto something. And sometimes you just, if not all the time, have to be your best fan, like your biggest cheerleader, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and at the same time, you have to believe in your vision. That's kind of what it was for me. Is early on, I had a vision to do something different and to make it, I guess essentially the when I started playing with the dry goods and stuff like that, was make it more of what you would see at a store, like not just stuff thrown on a shelf. I like to light up my booth. I like to make it look appealing and draw people in, and clean product, organized, so that they can see it. No different than how you would want to shop at, a grocery store. So you're going to have that vision is what I had, and I just made it happen. And a lot of guys don't want to put that extra work into, putting the lights up and doing all that stuff. But at the end of the day, that's the results you get. And so that's been my vision for a long time, is just walking around shows, seeing different things, and you just pick pieces from different, booths and kind of come up with your own idea and just keep pushing it. So, and it's evolved a lot. I mean, there was times where everything was in, like I said, in totes. Now everything rolls in. I mean, we can roll in and set up an 18 to 20 table booth in 2.5 hours, and it's nice, clean, and looks really well. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're definitely extremely organized when you come to the shows. You got everything ready to go. You're rolling it off the trailer, taking the shrink wrap off, putting it where it needs to be. Like I said, I like your display, honestly, because, it's got a flow to it. You have your animals front and center, but it's almost like an island in your display. One thing I was always kind of jealous about that I was going to do and then I didn't because of you was, you always take pictures with your customers. You post them online, you kind of give them that gratification, that appreciation from you that they wanted to work with you, and you show that when you post them online. That was one always thing that really stuck out to your booth with me.
Yeah, that's something that's always kind of stood very strong with me, and that goes back to, I guess, my personal experience when I first bought my first crested gecko. I bought my first crested gecko from Creepy Exotics, Barb, Mama Barb. Most people know her as Mama Barb. And for me, I went to a show and met her. And again, I wanted to breed something. I didn't know what I wanted to breed. I had all kinds of different things growing up as a kid. And when I met her, I seen them on her table. I kind of always wanted one, and we decided to get one that day. But that was because she took the time to teach me about the animal. She spent probably 2 hours with me. She took me all the way down the list of how to breed them, how long it takes to incubate them. I mean, she didn't leave anything out. And so for me, I took that experience and I wanted to give that back to as many people as I could, and give them that same feeling. And I think that's really what worked for us, is just we really I try to go above and beyond to make the customer feel like they're getting all of the information they need and that they are appreciated for, representing and supporting our business.
That's good, Ben. Last, really quick, and I'll let you jump in, MJ. Sorry, but you just comment too about your appreciation for them. The people coming to your table, wanting to give them the time of day. People give me a hard time sometimes. They're talking to people that they say are a waste of time. I never consider anybody a waste of time. You don't know who a true buyer is and who isn't. You really shouldn't judge a book by its cover in this industry, because there's a lot of weirdos in this industry that have a lot of money and like to spend it on animals, and they don't always dress like you'd think somebody who had money would be dressing.
That or even younger generation. I mean, you get people walking around the shows that there's kids walking around with their parents, and they have their money in their pocket that they're ready to spend and willing to invest into something. And sometimes people don't even give them the time of day because they're 17, 18 years old, or 15 years old. I mean, I've had younger kids spend some good money, obviously with their parents staying there, but their hard-earned money. And yeah, you don't judge a book by its cover, for sure.
No, for sure. Go ahead, MJ, man. I see you got something on the tip of your tongue, right?
No, this relates. It's funny. This is why me and Dave right here, I love it, because what I had to say kind of relates to what Dave just brought up. But in this sense, right, Dave's talking about never judge somebody at your table, or maybe somebody that you're face to face with. For me, I feel like my biggest challenge that I want to do better at in 2023 is giving the person in my DMs or Morph Market Messenger the time of day. And what I mean by that is I'm so quick to read a fucking window shopper, but at the end of the day, window shopper is not always a bad thing, right? Like it's just like any kind of sale, right? But I don't have a good patience with stuff when I feel like, when somebody asks me like, hey, what would you breed this to if I were to buy it? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you information on that, but I'm curious, like maybe I should, right? Maybe this person that answering that question might lead to another stake sale. You never know, right? But I'm curious how you delegate that, Tristan, and maybe if you want to touch on that too, Dave.
I guess for me, a good example for that would be if you want to talk about the enclosure side of what we do, because if you walk into a show, there are a handful of people obviously selling enclosures. So the options are a lot higher, and obviously prices vary depending on what size and so on and so forth, and what that person, values their time at. And so I think the enclosures are a great example, because also you can walk around a show and let's talk about a new hobbyist that's walking around and just bought their first snake. They're looking for the best deal, essentially. They don't know that maybe spending a little bit more money is worth what they need to do for their animal. So the enclosures is a good way to talk about that, because I get a lot of people that are not going to spend the money right then because it's an expensive item. It's not really something that they're looking to spend. So I definitely have to sell myself on the quality of my product in our business, and a lot of times hope that person comes back and purchases, from us versus a lot of other people on the market. So you just have to kind of take the time to educate them and teach them about your product and make them believe in yourself, and your business and your brand, and then hopefully the rest of the pieces will fall into play.
Dave, I know you're not a big IG guy, Dave, but I'm curious just with the Facebook side of things, people who might have met you at shows and hit you up, like how do you delegate people wanting your help? And if they're just, especially by somebody you don't really know either, like how do you always deal with that?
Truth, I remember being on that side of things. I give them as much time as I possibly can before maybe I neglect them for a few days. I've seen a lot of people fail, and I've seen how they failed. I've seen my failures. So like even at the show, kind of like what Tristan says, like, and we'll jump back to that, but like someone comes to my table and they're like, I really need a ball python to go with my only ball python I own. It's a het genetic stripe male. What do you have that's compatible? the thing is about the first animal that people buy, that's your introductory animal. That kind of got you wanting to be in the hobby. I always tell people, don't revolve around that one animal. That got you in the door, but that doesn't have to be everything you do moving forward. That was your spontaneity buy. So I always, honestly, I try to coach people in a direction to make sure they succeed. Like I said, everyone can run their business differently. And I don't want them to succeed just because they're a repeat customer. I think everybody deserves an equal chance. And if they fail on their own accord in the future, that's fine. But if I give them all the tools I could possibly give them and they fail, it's not like I feel better at night and I can sleep, but at least I know an effort was put in.
Yeah, good point.
So,
Yeah, and something I've done on my business end of it is with the crested geckos, because we move volume essentially because we travel to so many shows, is YouTube videos, care videos, things like that, pamphlets for care sheets. So that's something that also helps with a lot of those questions that are coming in for me, because I'm more show based and we do deal with a lot of the return on that side. Those are things that I put into play on my side of the business to help try to eliminate some of those questions and go ahead and give them the answers when they leave the booth.
Yeah, man. I'll be honest. You can't burn out on customer care. Your engagement with the customer is one of the biggest things in the hobby, and it's why some people are made and broken in this hobby. The old-fashioned mindset was you just produced an animal and somebody was going to want it. You could sit behind your table and do nothing. Nowadays, if you don't engage, more than likely whatever you have, somebody else has, and they're going to pick the animal probably based on the person over the animal a lot of times.
Yep.
True,
But
true.
I agree.
So with a temperature-sensitive animal, we talk about horror stories on the road. Crested geckos, man, as you know, if you break down the side of the road in the summertime, you're fucked. You bring in animals, you're just going deli cups in a container. You're keeping the temperatures where they need to be. Is there anything you've ever done to secure your animals as you're driving, or do you feel like you got it down now?
Essentially everything. So people have always asked me, they always think that the animals go in the trailer. So no, they don't go in the trailer to answer those questions. They go in deli cups in the back of the truck. But yeah, you're spot on with that. We are gambling with essentially having the animals in the back, and if the truck does break down or anything like that. We had ran into a situation one time where the truck did get into an accident, and I had no options. The guy, he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "It's still early. It's not going to get warm until probably 11 o'clock." And I just had him tow the truck, and he's like, "Really? You want me to tow it from Alabama to Tennessee?" And I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, "There's animals in there. We got to go. We got time. No time to lose. We've got to get on the road." But the future plan is we're going to have a trailer where we can basically have temperature control in there. So obviously we would have a backup plan with a generator to help with that if something were to happen. But yeah, you never know. Anything like that could happen. And we do have, AAA, so hopefully they would be spot on to get to us, but that could always take a while as well. So with the crested geckos, we do seem to have a little bit of time, but really summertime is going to really become an issue if that were to happen. So backup plan that we do have in play is get that generator running, have a trailer that we could just put them in if needed.
Jump around a little bit, MJ. You want to keep on talking about the shows a little bit?
I'm curious real quick, as far as other than you making wise investments at shows and whatnot, where were some investments you made for your own collection that made you get to where you're at right now? Either if it's a certain project you invested in or, something you hatched out or whatever, but I'm curious what investment moves you made within the actual collection itself.
Yeah. So for me, I've had people always ask me this essentially about like the Xanthics and things like that. And being as I'm more show based, and I've always focused on the shows, really the main investments I made were into lily whites. And I didn't really see it going any further than that because of the show circuit that I ran. So I do have lily whites, and then I like to keep a wide variety of, lower end stuff just to get those kids involved, and give them an opportunity to buy something that's not super expensive. But I do kind of regret that, essentially, is not getting into the Xanthics, earlier on. because now that I'm on the NARBC market, you know, I'm getting into those shows and into bigger named venues and things like that. You see that there's a desire for those animals. So I guess that's kind of one regret about that. But the main investments we did, I think I'm breeding right now. I think I've got 8 females and 3 different males, which obviously are to a couple females rocking for lily whites. I want to say we've produced upwards of 80 lily whites this year that are growing up now.
Nice. And then and like the average price, like if you don't like, let's just say I'm just coming into the game, right? Like what's like a good quality lily white should go for around what price you would say?
I mean, anywhere from 12 to 1800. But I mean, I have sold some for more than that, 2,500 to 3,500. It just depends on size, and then the sex of them depends kind of on the pricing as well. So really just depends on that for sure. Females are obviously going to go for more. Females in anything right now for crested geckos are really in high demand.
But if am I wrong? Am I wrong where there's not a lot of adults ever available? You only see babies for the most part, or are there adults available a lot?
You can find males all day long. Females are a lot harder to find.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like that's come in waves and cresteds because, you know, I remember some timlings ago and there'd be setups where it'd be all like sub-adult to adult size animals, males and females. But, you know, like me and you were talking at the show, the demand has gone up so much in crested geckos recently that you just don't see those big animals around anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that we even talked about that at Tinley. I think that there's a reason for that. And it's the fact that there's becoming more people that are taking crested geckos professionally than there was in the past. Because, you know, when I first started doing shows, it was just, you know, a couple guys here and there would have crested geckos in deli cups. And a lot of people were more online based. And now you've got the show presence is starting to become more popular for crested geckos.
Yeah, I agree. You know, a lot of times with a species, and, you know, we had Justin on last week, but, you know, just the importance of somebody putting content out there to talk about a species. You know, it goes a really long way for the ball python community every time Justin comes out and starts talking about something. You know, with your crested geckos, you know, even that big sale in Vegas that keeps on coming up because I can't stop talking about the damn thing, helped the industry and helped crested geckos, in my opinion. Gave them more credibility. You know, I was talking to a boa guy today, or a boa guy made a mention that, you know, we need somebody in the boa community, like hyping up boas, doing weekly videos. You know, when you get one guy in a community, he really can build an entire community for everybody else, but it'd be nice if everybody contributed at least a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it definitely goes a long ways when you're excited about it, other people are going to get excited about it. And that's just kind of how it works. Me and Bob Vu have had that conversation before. You know how Bob is. He's really pumped. He likes to talk about what he does. He believes in what he does. And when you are excited,
Bob who?
And when you're excited about something, you get people excited about it, you know, and that's just it bleeds into people.
No, I agree. Hey, I want to talk a little bit about the lily white sheen. You know, essentially it's like a high harlequin. What kind of line breeding are you do? Or not line breeding so much, but are there any designer geckos that you're finding when you put in the lily white makes a better version of lily white? When you start putting the harlequin stuff in, you get more of that white down the sides, or is that sheen just so dominant you could put it with something basic and still get a nice animal?
I like to think that it's pretty dominant to where you can put it with basic stuff. So I have actually done that as well, but I run a lot of groups. So whereas a lot of these guys are seeing exactly what is coming out of each female, I'm not keeping exact track of that. So, but I do have groups where I have females that are not, you know, high pattern or anything. They're just bicolors. So red bicolors, yellow brindles, things like that. And I'm still seeing really nice stuff, but I get a better looking animal when I do high white with like a dark base to a lily white, whether it's being a tricolor lily white or a dark base lily white. That's what I see that I get the best look out of and the most saturation of the white color.
Okay. And when you talk tricolor in crested geckos, you mean orange, black, and white, right?
Correct. Yeah. And the more white obviously is the better. A lot of people will refer to a tricolor, and then it won't have a lot of white. It'll just have a little bit on the, dorsal or some on the lateral line. But you want something. What I've seen is something that's got more of a white wall look to it.
Okay. Okay, so Encrusteds, it was always line bred and designer stuff. Are you in love with the mutations coming in? Do you think there's going to be any issues with the super form on the Cappuccino project, or the Lily White not being not being viable with the Cappuccino, but with the Lily White you get a leucistic that's not viable? Do you think that's just because we worked with such a small gene pool that in a sense there's a little bit of an inbreeding there to get you that morph that caused that, or you think that's just the way it was supposed to be?
I think that it's got to do with some inbreeding. Obviously, there's very minimal new genetics that are out there. There are some F1s out there, but it's not as common. So obviously they're all essentially related. And then I feel like it's got something to do with the pigment too. The fact that they're losing some of the pigment is going to make them a weaker animal essentially. And then the structure of the animals too. I just feel like the structure is not completely there, whereas they don't have the crest and don't have the look of the crested gecko. So is that something to where they're not fully developed? Possibly. I don't know. I personally haven't hatched any or raised any, so I wouldn't have personal experience with that. But I have seen some of the stuff going around with, how they're having the nostril issues and things like that. But there's also other ones out there that don't have these issues. So I think that it's something that the more that the people that are breeding them focus on and learn what is creating that specifically, and then the stronger pairings of that, and focus on those pairings, I think that they can get some really nice animals out of that.
Okay, and one more thing with the so is it Cappuccino's the super form, and then it's like or is Cappuccino and then there's a super form of the Cappuccino?
Yeah, there's the super cap, which is basically, and then there's the RCK cap, which is the Korean line. And that one almost looks like it's got a marble look to it, to me. The pigment of the skin almost looks marbled. But the super cap is going to be the ones that are almost leucistic essentially, and they have the really dark eyes. And there's quite a few out there, and there's some that are getting bigger and doing well. But there obviously are some that are having issues. But I think it's just because it's in the early stages as well. In my experience, I've learned just breeding crested geckos in general, when you start hatching out animals, the longer in the season you go, the better off your odds get, and the stronger the babies get, and the bigger the babies get. So hopefully that's something that will lead into that, and the animals will start to thrive a lot better.
Okay. Hey, MJ, man, I'm not doing too much talking, but you got anything? Just engage.
I'm not an asshole. I don't cut people off for one thing, Dave. You're on a roll.
I would consider it that. We just have the raise your hand rule. We talk about that. Just give me like a little finger at the bottom. Give me one of these, and I'll know what that means.
I think 3.7 seconds of silence should be the sign. I think that right there, us should be professionals to where if we see that 1, 2, 3.7, we speak. I think that's just how we should do it.
What if I fake fall asleep? Would that do it for you? Could that be your code?
That works too.
All right. So Cappuccino, I want to talk a little more about the genes. I know you guys actually have the genes, and sorry, MJ, I didn't mean to cut you off if I did, but I've seen this stuff overseas. You're talking about with almost like that Brendel look to it, almost that paradoxing, and the super Cappuccinos. I thought that was the Lily White supers that kind of had that look to them, because I have seen some of those pictures.
I'm not positive on that. I thought that the Lily form was the Frappuccino look.
Okay. Hey, I could be wrong. I'm not the crested gecko guy. I'm bullshitting.
Hey, I'm going to be honest with you. I stay so busy with everything else, as you know. I don't get to keep up with it 110%. We stay so busy on the road. I do get to check on some of it, but honestly, that's the thing with me is for right now, I don't have a desire to breed those animals just because we are so busy building the brand and doing other things. So I have had people that ask, are you going to invest in those animals? And it's not that I don't want to, but I also don't want to spend $20,000 on an animal and be on the road and, things can happen, even though they're easy to take care of, and you have guys in places. Things can happen with an animal like that. That's a hard pill to swallow.
I mean, that's just you being smart. Knowing your limitations, knowing what you're working with, not seeing a reason to invest in something else if something else is working. Like you say, put all that money into something and something goes wrong, or you don't put the time in to breed it. I mean, why the fuck did you do it in the first place?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
true.
But yeah, go ahead, MJ. Let's jump in a little bit with that red ass wine.
I'm curious, Tristan, how you delegate certain customers that are like your loyal ones, right? I'm sure you have customers that like to come to you a lot or spend the most money with you, I guess. You put the most in time with helping them with certain projects at all, or making sure they make the right kind of moves. Like, you have anybody you're basically mentoring at this point due to customers just coming to you so much, or how's that going?
Yeah, we've mentored quite a few different people, and it's nice to hear and see people that listen. We have people that have, obviously been repeat customers, and we try to help them build specific projects and choose the right animals. And then I will also refer them to other people. There's been times where I'm at shows shopping for them at other people's tables, other vendors' tables, trying to, help them find the right animals. There's a gentleman that I am mentoring right now. He's kind of getting going back where I used to live, so up towards Tinley Park. His name's Jesse Bird, getting him going, Midnight Creatures. So kind of giving him, just some early on tips. And then Tony, which is who Dave was mentioning earlier, that sells some of the product at the shows, definitely mentoring him. And then obviously the guys that work with me, we mentor them and try to, help guide them in the right direction. And there's plenty of room for everybody to be successful in this industry. So giving that knowledge out to everybody is key.
Yeah, I never look at people as competition, man. And another thing, when you're talking about the shows, I'm like, the risk it is to go a certain distance to a new show, taking a chance. I hear people talk about breaking even at shows, and like they'll be okay if they break even at shows. I've never had the mindset to go all that way to do anything just in hopes of breaking even.
Yeah,
I think it's a really bad way to go into something.
Yeah, that's true. If I could say something on that, that just kind of goes back to believing in yourself and kind of like speaking shit that you want to happen into existence. But more importantly, what Dave's saying is like that kind of mentality wears on you. Like if you're kind of just like in mediocre, I just have mediocre results, then you're going to just show that you're there for mediocre results, man. If you're there knowing you're going to fucking kill that shit, and like, God damn it, I'm going to fucking leave this show goddamn wiped out. Like this is going to be great. And you have that mentality, man. It's kind of, I was in sales for over 12 years, and I used to fucking just see shit come to me. I don't know. And that just always separated me from everyone else. I could just see it happening. So that's a really good point, Dave. I'm glad you brought that up. Because listen, if it's one thing also too about the whole breaking even thing, a lot of, and I could say from what I know in the ball python community, a lot of new vendors go in, they don't make the money they don't expect to make, and they almost give up on it right away. And they go, fuck, I'm never going to do that again. I can tell you, I've heard that more than 5 times this year. I'm never going to do this again. It's stupid.
Well, and that goes into what we were talking about earlier, is about, believing in the people that are walking up to you, and you have to talk to them and teach them. You don't know if that next person is going to be a good sale or not. You could be at the end of the show and someone walk up and make your day and spend enough money to make your entire weekend. You don't know unless you invest time into that person. So you've got ample opportunity from set hour to set hour to talk to every single person that walks by your booth and try to sell what you can to that person. So that's the key. That's why we go. That's why you sign up for the shows, and that's why they have hours, for us to be there. Is that's the hours you're going to try to sell yourself.
Oh, for sure. And will I be seeing you this weekend down in Texas?
No, we'll be in Columbia. We'll be at the Repticon out there in Columbia.
Cool. So here's something completely random. We keep on bringing up Repticon. I feel like it's just, but I saw a post a couple of days ago that Kathy passed away. And Kathy really was a face of Repticon. You knew her. She was at every show when I was coming up in the game. She was fiery. She was fun. Definitely be on her good side, but yeah, unfortunately, this past week she did pass away. So I think, given that respect, because again, if you did a Repticon, you knew who Kathy was.
Absolutely. Yes. Rest in peace to Kathy.
Man,
all right.
I mean, since we're in the downer side of things, real quick, I want to hang out here for a little bit. How many, Dave? One thing I relate with Dave, him more so than me, is like losing people close in this industry, right? Especially people that you were really pretty tight with. Have you had to deal with any of that, like throughout this time of being in the hobby, Tristan? That kind of maybe had some sort of effect that pushed you to go harder in this?
Yeah, that's a topic that definitely has pushed me to grow my business. Me and my mother used to be actually very close, and not necessarily losing her as in losing her, but losing her as far as being by my side and growing the business. And that kind of lit a fire under me to grow my business, and it's some of the issues have subsided. And things like that. But it's definitely something that pushed me. And then also my father, not necessarily losing him like that, but he chose other roads and kind of pushed me in a direction. And I, wanted to show my parents essentially that I could do this. And that's really something that has lit a fire under me, and I've never really lost it, is just to prove them wrong and show them that I could do this. Sometimes they were doubting me even breeding crested geckos. So yeah, absolutely. In a sense, that would tie into, kind of losing them, but still pushing me to the next level.
I mean, here I am with this real quick. If you don't mind, if I could just say that I'm a really difficult person to work with. B, myself, I don't trust a lot of people. I mean, my best caretaker when I'm away is my wife. Like, she's the one that gets it done, right? But in reality, yeah. I know for sure, especially the rate I'm going, I'm gonna need help. I'm eventually gonna need to trust somebody, And man, like, if it's somebody that I know that I wish I could have, like kind of managing what I got going on, would be my older sister. Like, my older sister's like she's somebody who just knows who I am. Like, you know what I mean? But it's like getting family involved. Is that the right thing to do? Like, first off, I'm far from ever doing that. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's tough. Yeah. I feel like in general, just when it's family, there's just a different vibe there. When it's somebody else that's working for you essentially, or working with you essentially, it's a different vibe than family. And we all know when it's family, each other's limits, so you tend to push them a little bit more and do things with them or react to things with them in a way that you wouldn't with a random stranger. So yeah, it's kind of like a professionalism thing, I guess. When you grow up with somebody, you kind of learn your limitations on where they can push you and where you can push them.
Yeah, I mean, family can be tough. I've never actually. The closest thing I have to family is my cousin Paulie in Buffalo has been always a reptile guy. He was very helpful when I was in Buffalo. He was doing a little rat breeding. Partnerships are whatever you make out of it. It's so tough to find a perfect partnership in this industry. Unrealistic expectations on one side. And then with the family part, in my opinion, I feel like it's a lot more common for a family member to slack off a little bit or have an excuse to, because you're family. You kind of need somebody equally motivated as you, in all honesty. The people that are most successful, because, you brought up Bob earlier, and I know you and Bob have a little bit of a history. You guys have helped each other out over the years. It's not a coincidence that Bob was attracted to you, that he wanted to work with you and you wanted to work with him. Yeah, right. Well, he's an attractive guy, both of them.
Just sounded funny.
Well, half the shit I say sounds wrong. But there was something about you that he keyed in on, and vice versa, that there was a trust there, and because of that, you guys made each other better people in that moment. And I think there's a lot of people around Bob that would say the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob has done a lot to help me along the way. He's been a great mentor as well, and obviously he's doing great things on his end. But yeah, I mean, crested geckos was not necessarily his forte, and we met each other, and he's seen my drive and he's seen my work ethic, and one thing led to another, and it clicked. And we used to do shows together, vend together, and we worked well together, and we had a great time at shows. And we still do. I mean, we did the Daytona show pretty much together recently here this past summer. So it's just nice to work with like-minded people, and they drive you in the right direction. So I think when you surround yourself with people like that think the same way as you do, it's only going to push you to be better.
No, I agree. And like I said, when you're lucky enough to have somebody with the drive that you do attracted to you and wanting to work with you, that's such a huge thing in the hobby.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. For sure. And I think that if there was more of that and less competition, because at the end of the day, there's still competition at the shows because we're all selling the same product. We're all competing with each other. But if we all work together, we could make the entire setting of the show feel like a better vibe, which is going to put the customers in a better mood. And it just becomes that way. And I feel like that's why Tinley it has such an impact that it does, is because the vibe when you walk in that place is just electric. And you go to some other shows and it's not the same vibe. People are not gelling the way that they do at Tinley. Everybody's just there having a great time. So that bleeds into the customers for sure as well.
No, I agree.
I gotta say, man, it's been every Tinley so far, and I don't let it ruin my time at all. But man, I'm somebody who's a fucking goddamn kid in a candy store at a Tinley because that vibe is everything to me, right? I won't say any names, but you'll run into that one vendor who's literally like, "This is the worst Tinley I've ever been at. That's all I gotta say. This is not what it used to be." And there's like at least one or two of those. So by the way, if you're new at Tinley, you happen to hear that, don't go for it. Tinley's a shit. Tinley is the best. I mean, listen, I don't vend though. I understand the stress that comes with vending. People have high hopes and shit, but like, God, I don't go for that stress. I'm there running into people like Greg Maxwell and shit and just having the time of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Tinley's awesome. That was he was asking about you earlier. Tony's here.
Who's that? What up? Oh, what up? Hell yeah. What's cracking? But yeah, dude, totally. Tinley's not meant to be slept on. You got to go to Tinley. It's very important to go to Tinley, especially if you're trying to do this for the long run. Like, you're only shooting yourself in the foot. You know what I mean?
Even if you're just going to walk around and have a good time. I mean, I lived there for years and didn't go to Tinley. And then I went back and went as a customer, not as a vendor. And the place, it's just, and you have to spend the entire day there. The whole weekend, you have to spend it there because you can't just see it in one day or in a few hours. You literally have to plan your entire weekend to be there. Even as a vendor, I mean, we get in early and you still can't even get around to see the entire show because it's that big and there's so much going on there.
Yeah, I think toughest thing for Tinley, for me personally, like you said, with the whole getting around and looking things, is the VIP hour on Fridays and early Saturday morning. I've been making my most money during the VIP hour, and that'd be the time I'd spend looking at new animals. So honestly, I've been pretty glued to my table the last few Tinleys where I haven't actually had any chance to see anything at all.
Yeah, I try to make it when we walk in that place, we are like pretty much set up and ready to go. Like last time we were in there, I think we were ready to go within like the first hour because you have to be ready at those shows to start taking sales because people are already in there as soon as you get in. And they're ready to purchase stuff, and they're trying to get first dibs, and you have to execute that when the opportunity's there.
Yeah. Another thing with Tinley too, like you said, when people show up, they want that unique, one-of-a-kind animal or something they know they're not going to find somewhere else. A big thing with you walking into Tinley, even if you had never done that show before, because of your brand, because of your marketing, people already knew who you were. So when they saw you in person, if they never had a chance to buy from you, just because they've followed you, they'd want to come talk to you. They want to maybe pick something up for you. So again, your marketing prior to that, even prior to going to Daytona, was huge for you because, I'm sure you did well at Tinley, and I'm sure you really did well at Daytona also. And that's because you have a presence at the show, even if you'd never been there before.
Right. Yeah. We walk into a lot of markets like that we've never stepped into, and we have people that are coming to the booth to see us specifically. Or specifically coming to the show to pick up product that they've purchased online or things like that. So that's definitely a thing, and it's not just at those big shows. We see it even at the smaller shows, and that goes back to the branding and the spreading of the name and giving people a good experience and the word of mouth.
Yeah. Another thing too, again, about your setup, how you didn't really change it at Tinley. You got your product behind you. You're in with the customers. You're interacting with them. I think that goes a long way. The separation of the table and the buyer is not the end of the world, but with what you do, it has a flow to it. And I think that really goes to your advantage.
Yeah. Early on in doing the shows, I learned that when you can get personal with someone and stand and separate that table from there, it just makes a better feeling, when you're actually standing there teaching them the product, talking to them. Being trapped behind a table has never been my favorite thing. So that's kind of where that idea came about. And no matter where we go, we try to stick with that same kind of vibe and same kind of setup, is where, you can walk in and feel welcome in our booth and have room to move and shop and interact with us.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you, Tristan, as of right now, I mean, do you have a family? You have a wife. What's going on with your actual, your personal projects?
Yeah, so I do have a wife. We don't plan to have kids in the near future. Realistically, we plan to travel and kind of enjoy life. She's an only child. I'm an only child, and we just don't really have a desire to have any kids at this point. And just kind of living our best life. She's getting ready to go back into school, and once she does that, then she'll be to the grind of doing that, and we'll be sticking it out, doing shows and working on getting our website back up and going the first of the year, and pushing things in the right direction on that platform.
Me and Dave have plans to have kids next year at least, right, Dave?
Hey man, my
you and Dave are gonna have kids next year?
Podcast joke, podcast babies.
Yeah, there you go.
Listen, I feel like the biggest thing anybody could have is that other half to fucking support what you have going on. Because there's a lot of people, unfortunately, and I was just talking to who was I talking to about this? I don't know. I forgot. But some people aren't always in that position where they have someone either rooting them on or even helping them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And family obviously with kids and shit makes every situation more dicey. It's crazy how nowadays people just prefer not to have kids. It's crazy how that, it's just what it is nowadays. Some people.
Yeah, I mean, kids take a big toll on relationships. Time, things like that. They can drive people apart. So yeah, I mean, it does play a big role, and it is great to have a significant other that supports what you do. And she more or less pushed me into doing this full time. Years ago, she was like, "You're spending all this other time working for other people. If you spent that time working on yourself and invested it into yourself, you would grow so much faster." And so when I actually took the plunge, she kind of pushed me over the edge and was like, "Just do it," and she supported me pretty much ever since. And it's obviously tough being on the road. Some people ask, like, how can you guys be apart from each other so much? We found ways that, it does us good. She works when I'm on the road, so it kind of gels, and she works the weekends while I'm away. And when I'm home, she's home. So it's nice little mix that we have going, and it works. And it is hard, especially traveling show circuits, to make that work, especially if you have kids. So
I think one of the smartest moves I ever made with my wife was, because my one thing, dude, my wife, dude, she changed my life completely. Like, I had no credit, literally, at all. I didn't know what credit was. Like, she just spiffed everything up, right? So at one point, when she didn't really invest too much or inspect so much on how much I was making enough to where I felt like if I go to her, she could probably fucking help me out on what to do with this shit. You know what I mean? Because kind of just let me put it back into snakes only went good for so long. And now it's like, I got to be fucking more, you know what I mean? I got what I got, right? But how are you dealing with, like, for instance, your guys' money situation? Do you guys team up? Like, do you guys ever talk about, all right, listen, we made about this much, we should do this with it instead of this? Or is it all about
she's definitely, like you're saying, she's the more money saver, and the one that kind of cracks down and cracks the whip on stuff like that, and definitely helps me to make sure that I'm keeping a rein on what I'm doing, because I like to grow. My business plan has always been to grow, and sometimes you have to hone that back in, and she's definitely helped guide that and help me make sure that I don't get too many baskets rolling, with what I've got, because I like to add more products and do things like that. So she definitely hones it in for me, and it's great to have that backbone and have someone that you can depend on with that. And she does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff with promoting and things like that too. So
Nice. So that brings my next question then, man. With somebody that grew as fast as you did, and again, we're talking about a very short period of time, 5 years from what you had to what you have now. When do you know when to stop? Like, when do you know you've had enough, or are you just always going to be wanting to add to it?
No, I've gotten to a point, and I mean, there's things that obviously, as business owners, no matter what business you're in, you have ideas, you try them. Sometimes they don't work. Sometimes you have to hone them back in, and that's part of pretty much nailing down the formula. You know, how do you get your formula of what works for you? You have to try things, and I think we're getting to that point to where it's more of adding more animals, not necessarily more species, but adding more crested geckos to keep up with the shows. But our product line, I feel pretty confident in that, and it does really well. Now it's just beefing that product line up to a point to where we can sustain running the shows, running online, because that's some of the things that has happened just from a business standpoint. You know, is I do shows, people want me to ship, people want me to take orders, and we have done that and try to keep up with the shows, and sometimes it becomes too much. So that's where the website's down currently, just so we can get our feet under us before we move forward again. But as far as products, we're probably coming to a point to where, you know, things may change depending on what's available out there. But we feel pretty confident with the product line that we have, and that it is good for the customer base that walks into the shows.
So I'm not going to say you're too ambitious, but I see you at a show every weekend. The idea of you having an online store and that blows my mind, because my biggest problem on the road, I neglect my morph market. You know, I'm just so focused on the shows, you know, maybe a nice dinner afterwards with people. I find myself playing catch up, and that's not good, because you make someone wait, they're going to walk away. Things happen fast on online sales.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about having some people in play to make those things happen, and that's something we're trying to make happen before the first of the year, is having someone in the place of doing that, so I can focus on shows, I can focus on the breeding of the animals, and then we have a team that's more or less pushing that out, and then hopefully we can get, you know, a home base to where people can come and pick up, and that's a big deal right there. You know, people will travel to you. They say if you build it, they will come. So that's kind of part of the plan too, is to hopefully get a home base where people can pick up product and go that route.
Now, I mean, what are your thoughts on there being too many shows? You know, I'm hearing that quite a bit.
Yeah, I have thoughts about that. So a lot of people right now are talking about the economy. I don't think it's necessarily only the economy. Yes, the economy has a toll on it, but in my area, if you look around, there's literally a show every other weekend. Like, every other weekend, whereas used to, you know, every 2 to 3 months you would have a show. So you have taken the desire for people to want to purchase things out of it completely, you know. So definitely there are a lot of shows. There's too many shows, in my opinion, for sure.
It's you know, with your comment, I've said this before, White Plains and Hamburg were good examples. They had that show 3 times a year, pretty much an average, maybe 4 times a year. Then both shows around the same time decided to go to at least 6 to 7, I think maybe 8 shows a year. And the urgency of the buy went away, because people would come to your table and they'd be like, you know what? If you have it next month, I'm going to buy it from you. Where before it was 3 to 4 months in between the show they went to, it was, here it is, sweet, it's in front of me, I'm taking it. So I find the urgency at the show to buy goes down with too many shows in a region.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when you have a show and then the next week there's another show 2 hours from there, it also takes away from people that are going to drive and travel to that show. So you've taken the desire away, you've taken the people to want to travel away, and then you're going to split with, you know, shows being 2 to 3 to 4 hours apart from each other. Now let's take all of these vendors that are going to help draw people into the show, and let's split them and diversify them into 4 or 5 different shows. Now you're losing how many people are coming for those people, versus if you put all those people in one building every 2 to 3 months, then now people are going to travel to see those vendors and to purchase from those guys. So I think it's all around. There's many ways that it affects sales for us being on the tables.
Yeah. I mean, we need promoters to expand their brand. You know, I'm not going to fault anybody ever for wanting to come into this industry and do something and try to do it better. And I think a lot of show promoters have that in mind when they do come into this. But, you know, how do you work together? You know, I don't know what the community's like among promoters. Like, I don't know if every promoter is a best friend. So, like, you know, a good example, we did that show in Knoxville probably about 2 years ago. And the weekend that we did the show, there was a North Atlanta show that Reptiles put on for the first time. And there was the Myrtle Beach show that Chris Eaton was putting on that weekend. Everybody was going to Myrtle Beach. Everyone was going to Atlanta. So I was like, I'm going to go to Knoxville. I went to Knoxville. I did amazing in that small facility. There weren't many vendors, but they had a lot of people come to the door. I did very well. Loved the show. And that was probably one of the best Knoxvilles I've ever done.
Yeah, and that Knoxville show used to be really good, but it was also very small. So that's another theory that I have too with the shows in general is the size of the show and the amount of people that you put in there plays a role on obviously how much the vendors are going to make. And that Knoxville show is a good example for how you could literally pack 500 people into that place and it felt busy, right? Which then helps create a vibe for people to want to purchase because they're looking over their shoulder wondering if this next guy next to them is going to buy that animal out from under them. So I think that has a role too. That Knoxville show used to be really, really good when it was in that small facility because it pushed, you know, the right amount of people in for the right amount of vendors.
Yeah, that's, again, a really tough thing for promoters, I will say, because if you put on a bigger show, it looks better to the public. It gives them more to look at. But like you said, it spreads the money out so much that certain vendors might choose not to come back to the next show because they didn't make that much when they went to the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a balancing act, man. I mean, I'm not really even sure there's a certain way to do it right or wrong. I think it's up to people understanding the region. And, you know, the reality is, for me, and you might do the same thing, I'm having to put a bigger effort into what shows I go to nowadays because I went to a town and I didn't realize there was a show the weekend beforehand in the same town because why would I have checked that?
Right.
Different promoter put on a show, so I got the scraps. So, you know, I will say with there being more shows out there, it's definitely more work for us to pick and choose what we should do because, again, if you go into an oversaturated area that just had a show, likelihood of you making money isn't very good. If I've got to drive an extra 5-6 hours that weekend, so be it. You know, you got to accept it that, you know, that show might not be what it's supposed to be.
Perfect example of what you're talking about. My show schedule next year, I have literally wrote down every show circuit in their schedule.
Yep.
And you have to literally pick and choose wisely of where you're going to go because if you go to a town like you're saying, you drive 10 hours to a town that had a show the week before, it does you no good.
Let me ask you this, Dave. Do you think Vegas show is going to happen again? The Reptile Super Show?
You know what? Let's see, because, you know, there's two shows in that town. There's Reptilian Nation and there's the Super Show now. I wouldn't say the last one was bad. I guess my qualm with Vegas is my same qualm with Myrtle Beach. It's a tourist town. And I always find it very challenging to make good money in tourist towns because people kind of see it on passing and say, hey, while I'm on vacation, maybe I'll go to the show. People don't want the responsibility to take an animal back with them. And I don't know. I love Vegas. I want to keep doing Vegas. This last Vegas, in all honesty, was a little worse than what some of my other ones have been. Still a good show, good traffic. Biggest show, or again, the biggest sale I've ever seen in the industry happened that weekend. So, but again, you know, that came down to those guys really marketing for themselves. You know, they pre-promoted for the show to get people there to spend money. So, you know, kind of like what Tristan does in my comment about him going to Tinley and just fitting in immediately and already being exposed to people who know who he is, even though he had never been there before. You know, with a lot of these shows, you know, like Vegas, you might just have to pre-promote for yourself a little bit better to have a good show.
Yep.
Yeah. How about Tristan? Honestly, I've never done Daytona. Was it scary the first time you did Daytona, or did you just go in there like, fuck yeah, man, it's just another show?
I was a little nervous, to be honest with you. I guess more so because of the overhead. right? So when you go to a lot of these bigger shows, you're taking on a bigger overhead for the show. So you really don't know the outcome. So yeah, there's being nervous there. But for me, I'm confident in my product. So when you put that many people in front of me, I feel like I can make things happen. So I made sure that we had a lot of product on hand, and I felt like we knocked it out of the park for a very first time show. That was the first bigger show that I did a few years ago, was the Daytona. And I got lucky to get into that show because it was kind of coming off of COVID. You had some people that still couldn't travel from, certain states, and that's how we even got in. Yeah, definitely nerves going into that show with a lot of overhead and a long travel on top of that, because we're used to doing Repticon where it's, tables aren't as much as any RBC Daytona's tables. So when you get a spread like mine, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah. I mean, I keep that in consideration on 4 tables when I travel, and we all know, when you create a relationship with some of these shows like Repticon or Show Me or Reptilian Nation, eventually you get cut deals. You put in a lot of shows, you put in a lot of tables, they're going to make sure that you're happy. With Daytona, Tinley, the Super Show, that's not really there. You go in and you pay what they say you're going to pay. And like you said, it can be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times what you normally pay at a smaller show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can't fault those guys. I mean, there's people chomping at the bit to get in those shows because of what they are. So they have to kind of stick to that standard where some of these other shows, are trying to fill venues and trying to, keep it looking good. But yeah, it's definitely a different ball game. And you just have to learn how to play, essentially. The first Tinley that I ever did, I only had 2 tables.
Yeah.
And we still pretty much, I walked in with my guys and they're like, you're not going to be able to make this work. We pulled up with 2 28-foot trailers. Yeah. And they're like, you have 2 tables. But you find ways to do it. You work out of the trailer, you make things happen. And now we have perfected that to where we can still go into Tinley with a smaller booth, set up a display, and we have people working out of the trailer that are, pumping things out. And it actually plays better for the show in general for us, safety concern reasons, carrying big cages out of shows, it's packed in there. There's a lot of things that go into it. It's easier for the customer to just pick it up outside. So you just got to find ways to adapt in situations like that too.
Yeah. One thing too I like about you is, we both similarly built our brand the same way. I wasn't much for online sales. I was that I want to go to a show. I want to talk to people. I don't care about the overhead to get in there. I don't care how far I have to travel. I, in the beginning, felt so much more comfortable behind a table than doing anything online. Now it's a mixture of both, and honestly, it's a little more heavier online than it is going to the shows at the moment. But, you pretty much built your business on traveling and doing these shows. You weren't super big online in the beginning.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I mean, even to this day, we still don't do a ton online. I have the website. We took it down some because, like I said, we got too far ahead because we're doing the shows. But that's kind of been my mindset and my plan, is to meet and make a relationship with people so they know me for me. So when we do decide to go more of a website and an online scene and fade away from the shows, years down the road, they will know me personally. They will know how we handle our business and how we represent ourselves. And I feel like that goes a lot further because you can actually get to know a person. You can get to know them personally and make that connection with them versus just click of a button and buying something. And it goes a lot further. I mean, I would rather purchase for someone and get to know them and stuff like that than just buy it from online. You turn that.
Yeah. Yeah, like last show, now this felt really good for me, and I was pretty happy with it. I was standing next to Ryan McVeigh's table, and this kid's mom came over with her son and said, can he take a picture with Ryan? And, it was like, no problem. Ryan took his picture. And then he looked at me and he's all like, you might not remember me, but you gave me a fake mustache at a show years ago. And I was like, fuck yeah, buddy. I was like, let's take a picture. I love that. Seeing people years later running into me at the shows, even like me, I used to be so big in the Southeast. Now I'm not doing that much in the Southeast anymore. Running into all those old people at Daytona felt really good. Familiar faces. I grew up in that region. Honestly, I miss the Southeast, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I really enjoy seeing the kids too. You know, you see kids that were little, and then years later, you see that they've grown up and they're still doing it and they still care about it. That really touches home for me a lot.
Yeah, no, for sure. Go ahead, MJ, take us in a direction, buddy.
All right, so I'm just curious as of right now. Okay, because I want to let's look out for some people, guys. Let's be honest. I so happy to see some people who get a good rhythm going at vending at shows at first. Meaning like they have good displays, they have good energy, they look like they're ready to go. And then you run into that one person and you're like, oh fuck, yikes, like what's going on, you know? With your experience, Tristan, what's some do's and don'ts? Like, let's look out for some people right now. Some people who are just about to vend their very first show, like especially going to 2023. Some people are literally on the roster to hit their very first shows, right? Can we talk about maybe some do's and don'ts as far as displaying stuff at their table, looks wise or animal wise, anything? And then Dave, obviously, I'm going to need you to chime in on this as well.
Yeah, so some key things for me that I think that are very important to have if you're going to vend a show or start vending shows is obviously tablecloths are a big thing. You know, I see some people come to shows a lot of times and don't have tablecloths, and I personally did the same thing when I first started shows. I didn't know necessarily that I had to provide tablecloths. You know, I was assuming that, oh, you get there, the tables are covered. So that's one thing I think that is a key. Business cards, you know, if you're going to sell yourself, you have to have business cards. People have to be able to contact you and know where they purchase from. A banner is a key, you know, and shirts. I've always said, I've had people ask me if I would do a show, you know, to be a promoter and actually do my own shows. And I think that those are some key things that should be a must-have going into becoming a vendor. And then another key thing is obviously having lights just to display your animals. You know, you walk by some tables, you can't even see the animals or see what's in it. Clean deli cups. You know, you see some shows, there's deli cups that have, you know, old marker writing on them or just scratched and dirty. And that also goes into the perception of us as an industry, you know, so that's another key thing. Those would be the main things that I would say are important going in, if, you know, just your basics.
Yeah. You know, having an understanding of what you're selling too, like, so here's the thing. When I walk by tables at a show, I don't pay a lot of attention to deli cups unless I walk by a species that they're usually in deli cups. Colubrids, all the Ractodactylus stuff. I expect to see that in a deli cup. If I walk by a table and see a $4,000 ball python or a $4,000 boa or something expensive in a deli cup, I'm lucky to even notice that animal, because a lot of times I won't acknowledge a deli cup. I'll pay a little more attention to display cases. So, you know, everything that Tristan said, you know, good lighting, have a tablecloth with you, and, you know, just make sure with your displays it represents your product. Don't put cheap things in cheap, or don't put expensive things in cheap containers. If you got to make something look like it's worth something, and a dollar deli cup is not going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, but everything else, here's the thing, you do it right. I'm a simplistic guy. Maybe I'm lazy, I don't know, but I might have a banner with me. I encourage banners, though. You should have a banner. Me, this is my banner, buddy. I don't do anything else. I just got to show up. I need the face, buddy. But again, you know, that's me. And I'd be much better if I put in a bigger effort on a lot of things. I choose not to sometimes. Anybody new, you really should. And I will say that, and maybe it's just a flex in the community, but people are getting bigger banners now, better looking logos. It seems like everybody's walking to that building looking to be the best now.
Can I say one?
Go ahead.
No, you first.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say one of the smartest things I've seen some of my homies do their first time vending is collab together. Like there's actually like 4 of them, and they have like 8 tables, and they're like, you know, they each have like 2, or there's like 4. I can't remember. Yeah, there's 4 of them, and they each have 2 tables, but everyone had somebody at their table, and they all kept moving down the line in their area. And I just felt like that's it. And they're all hanging out too. You're not by yourself. Like, you know, like I did my podcast behind their booth because how big it was and how spacious it was. So I always feel like if you have other peers or other good friends that are looking to get into this as well, like maybe team up with them, like go in on it with them, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that goes in hand too, like you're saying though, is because they fall into the next line of product. We've done that where we have set up with, for example, where I've set up with Bob, and you literally or line up all these animals. So once they start looking, they just stay in line with those animals, and it keeps their interest, and it just flows really well. So whether it's the same species because you're hooked up with a buddy of yours, or you're going from one species to the next, if you can just make it all flow together, you're still getting the people's interest. Like how Dave was saying, sometimes, you know, if the displays are what's going to draw his attention, if he's already looking at boas and then he happens to fall into crested geckos, he's not going to just stop looking at them. If there's something there worth looking at, it's going to draw his attention. Versus if, you know, he got to the end of the table and then it turned into deli cups, for example, then he may lose interest and keep it moving. And you can kind of do that with, you know, your buddies where it's just all one setup and you bleed off of each other. And who knows, your buddy may sell a snake that goes with your snake, or a gecko, vice versa, that goes with your gecko. So it really works well when you're teaming up and working together. And we've done a lot of that in the past with different people.
Yeah. Bobtown is the best way to say it, man. You know, I think even at this show this weekend, he's going to have Adeline and Chris at his table. Josh with Ball Shed's going to be over there. And, you know, the thing is, too, like, you know, sometimes people don't want to work together because they have similar products. The reality is Bob will have 3 or 4 vendors in his little community, in his cap, that all have ball pythons. Nobody's competing against each other because, again, he's got good people around him, people that want to be around each other and are happy to be vending together so they can hang out all weekend. You know, me slowly, I'm trying to build up to a me and Chad thing. I love Chad. I want to start setting up them at all the big shows. I want an end cap. I want to have a brand together, kind of like what Bob has with some of his guys.
Yeah.
Respect.
Yeah, and you see that from afar, and like we said as well, is it bleeds into the customers when everybody's gelling and having a good time, and people walk up, they feel that energy, and they want to be a part of that energy. And if you can push that energy into the customer base that's standing in front of you, it's going to go a lot further. I mean, we play music. There's a reason we play music at the show. Some people like it, some people don't like it. We try to pick music that, you know, works for people around us and everybody, and doesn't really interfere with, you know, people's opinions on different kinds of music. We usually like to play rock and roll and stuff like that. That's pretty mellow and not too bad, but it puts a vibe. I mean, anywhere you go, there's music. Go to the gas station, go in Walmart, go in the grocery store. Doesn't matter where you go, they're playing music. It's because it gives people a good energy.
Yeah, set an atmosphere, man.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, you know, DJing is my fucking profession before this shit. And if I'm ever vending, I'm bringing my whole decks. I'm bringing everything. It's going down. We're gonna fucking
there you go.
I'm gonna act like Pete Calls fucking.
But it also goes into play. So like I go to different areas and I have to choose music accordingly. You know, you have to know your demographic of people as well.
Now, see, that's where I go wrong. That's where I say, fuck it, I'm gonna play what I want.
DJ, hey, it's your brand, buddy. It's your brand.
DJ no request, baby. Just
DJ no request.
No, I listen. I feel like one of the biggest things is, you know, and this is, you know, God bless people who actually do try to elevate here and there. I mean, just going to shows is like one of the biggest things. I feel like you could really kind of get a sense if you're even meant to be around the people, you know. And what I mean by that is, you know, like Dave was saying earlier, you know, not judging people by how their appearance is. Like, can you put energy into just speaking to them and getting to know people? You know, I feel like a lot of people are really just banking on just setting up, sitting behind the show, looking at their phone, and not like the sitting down thing. Like I hate the head down sitting down thing, especially if I come by and like, dude, sometimes I'll just like, I don't even want to look at what they have. I just want to see if they're going to pay attention. And they just like, you know, it's like they don't want to be there. And I'm like, yikes, like that. You want to talk about a brand? Like, how would you want your brand to be represented like that? You know what I mean? So I think like you need to come ready. You need to come with the fucking, you know, come with your goddamn good hygiene, with a good haircut, ready to rock and roll with a good smile, and just fucking be there to shake hands and kiss babies. Like, listen, Dave has an appearance at every show. There's something it's an ensemble. Like, there's something going on with Dave, and it's his energy. I love seeing Dave at every show, I gotta say.
I'll be honest, I must have misunderstood Tristan. I thought we were wearing Hawaiian shirts today because he just came back from vacation, but he's always got to be repping his own product, apparently. I missed the cue. I even had the fucking hat, bud. I was even had it up right today, man. I had it all. I didn't put the hat on because you weren't even having a Hawaiian shirt on.
I didn't get the memo on the shirt.
I'm going to go back and read our message. I got the vibe that you meant that you brought some shit home from your last vacation. We were wearing that today.
No, I said I brought you some caps. Some caps.
So it's because I can't read. I get it.
You thought I meant cap.
Dave,
I just thought we kind of, gelling today a little bit. I just thought maybe be giving the same vibe. I guess I could have wore a custom scales t-shirt that I don't have, but
Can I just say it goes deeper than the not read? It goes a lot deeper than you not being able to read. Can I just say that, please?
It's a lot deeper than that. We're not going to talk about that today.
Okay, listen. What do you feel? Go ahead.
No, I got nothing, bud. I got nothing.
Overall, Tristan, one talk that kind of maybe discouraged me in a sense when I first got into this in 2017 was, people telling me how the ball python market was saturated, and this was coming from a lot of people really not in the ball python market. Where do you see like projects where you're at as far as saturation goes? Do you feel like you guys are nowhere near that? Do you feel like, you got to be careful? Like, how are you looking at the market at this point?
For me, I feel like crested geckos, essentially, I look at them a little bit differently. Because I am more show-based in the clientele that I focus on, I am always focused on getting new keepers in. So I feel like if we have that mindset of, and for me, again, it's the kids. I really like to teach and educate the kids and get their passion going at a young and early age, which is going to continue to grow the industry. And in that sense, I mean, there's unlimited amount of kids out there. You go to shows all the time, and there's constantly kids walking in. There's parents coming in that have no idea, have a bad taste about the reptile shows. And crested geckos, that's what led me to them essentially, is that they are kind of, a great starter that's inexpensive. It's very easy to take care of. So saturated as far as at the shows, I mean, yes, there's a lot more than there was when I started. But I think that that's good because there's more opportunity for people to get invested. I can't tell you how many people I have sold one crested gecko to that have bought now maybe 50 crested geckos or now have 100 crested geckos. So it's only going to better the industry on our end. And I feel like it's still in the growing stages. I don't feel like it's oversaturated, especially at shows.
Yeah. Not to hate on people that bring up the oversaturation thing, but the industry has always been oversaturated. There's always been a lot of something. It has never been the downfall of the industry. I find that sometimes we bring these kinds of things up for excuses on why things aren't working the way we believe they should be. Like Tristan, I look at a lot of different factors all the time on why things are not doing what they should be doing. You got to pay attention to what's going on around you, especially in a highly competitive market. But crested geckos, ball pythons, boas, leopard geckos, those are animals that are sold more than most other species in the hobby. I don't know if we have overproduced yet in any of those species.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So as long as it keeps selling, man, we clearly are not oversaturating the market.
Can we get?
Yeah, we move through quite a few. We go through quite a few crested geckos a year. And there's some shows we don't sell many, and there's other shows where we may sell upwards of 100, 150 geckos. So, and with that being said, also we still have people that are looking for wholesale. So the demand for the animal has got to be out there. If we have people contacting us wanting, 50 animals, 100 animals, things like that. So it's definitely still in the growing stages. And you look around now, and there's companies out there like AC Reptiles, Pangea. They used to have wholesale all the time, and it's gone. You can't even hardly find those wholesale animals anymore. And that's because the demand is really thriving right now.
Yeah. You got that, MJ? Otherwise, I got one more thing.
No, go ahead, roll it out.
Same thing like you said, the importance of the next generation coming up in the hobby, social media, YouTube videos, snake bites brings a lot of people in. All these YouTubers, kids are on YouTube. Kids are watching snake discovery. Hell, my neighbors in the middle of nowhere know what snake discovery is. Then they found out I bred reptiles. The first thing they asked me, do I know what snake discovery is? So, those people, there's always this like clash between the breeders and the YouTubers, and for a good reason in some cases. But the reality is this is one like ecosystem, man. We all kind of need each other in one way or another. That's why I got love for everybody. Everybody contributes in their own way, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it takes us all to make things happen, and we all have to bleed off of each other and kind of support each other and promote each other to keep it growing in the right direction. And perception is everything, the way that they see the industry. I talk to people all the time, and obviously, my booth now, and we show people pictures. You may go to the bank and talk to the banker, or you go to the grocery store. I've been at Home Depot before and buying something, and people are like, "Oh, what are you buying this for?" And you talk about you breed geckos, and it leads into a conversation, and you blow their mind, and especially when I can show them pictures of the booth that I have now versus what it was then, things like that, they take it more seriously. They're like, wow, this is actually a real thing versus, oh, it's just reptiles, or they have this bad persona. So the way that we represent ourselves is going to bleed into what people think of the industry.
Yep. And the only thing you have control over in this industry is yourself. Everything around you is white noise. Your business will succeed or fail based on what you do.
That's right.
Now I'm done talking. What do you got, bud?
All right. Well, I have a question here. It's so great to be successful at anything, right? Like, especially with what you have going on with the product lines and, just you building a community. I want to say people who are really starting to follow what you have going on. But what are you doing, Tristan, to help you? Like, what's something you do to make sure that you're mentally good, your body's healthy? Are you doing anything to make sure that you are taking care of yourself versus the business as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of part of what we were talking about before is vacationing with my wife, taking downtime to just kind of get away from it. In the early stages of growing the business, that's something that's been better over the last year is we've kind of set time away where we stop, what we're doing. And it all comes back to having people in places that I can trust to take care of my animals when I'm away from home and things like that. And in the early stages, we didn't have that. So now it's nice to be able to do that. So just vacationing, the shows really are my downtime essentially. So I really enjoy the shows because it's time for me to go, have dinner with friends and talk about the growth of the industry and just get ideas off of each other. Sometimes we go karting, we may go laser tagging. We do things like that kind of keep it fresh and fun. We always try to find something to do. We may go to baseball game. Even though we have a hard day of, work and whatnot, we still try to find some fun things to do and keep it fun on that aspect and just take some time away. But it's all about having people in places. And it's part of the growing pains of any business is getting to a point to where you can actually do that. So it's just nice now to be able to actually have that downtime.
Yeah. But I will say this, even like with what you're saying, I'm the same way. I absolutely love the weekends. It is a vacation. It's a meal I don't normally get to have. But also the reality is it's 20 to 30 hours of driving a lot of the time. It's setup time. It's breakdown time. It's time spent at the show. The reality is these are like 40, 50, sometimes 60-hour weekends to put in 2 days of work. As much of a vacation it is, it's what more people do. Most people don't work as much as we do on the weekend over the course of 5 days of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to prep, we still have to prep for our shows. We still have to take care of our animals. So it's a nonstop process for sure. And it is draining, but I've gotten to where in my growth, I've gotten to where I try to plan those long trips and try to make it as easy as possible. And we found a good rhythm with what we do. And we leave allotted time for, things to happen to where if something does happen, hopefully we have plenty of time and we're not scrambling at the last minute and adding extra stress on ourselves. And that's something that Tony says he always comments about, is that the Tony that just left is that he's like, I don't understand how your brain works. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, you don't get flustered. He's like, you blow a tire, it's cool. Someone ends up leaving Tinley and goes to the hospital.
I hate
He's
people like
you just roll with the punches, bro.
I fucking can't stand people like you. I love you. Just because I wish I had that. I wish I had that power, bro. I already know like it's way better off blowing it off than making it a big deal. And that's like, God damn, what a gift to have. That's all I got to say.
It comes in time. It comes in time, and it comes with having issues happen and experiencing things, and you just learn. And when you leave yourself allotted time and things like that, and you feel like you've prepared for it, essentially, then when it hits and it happens, and it's not as bad. I mean, there's 3 spare tires in the back of my truck at all times. There's a reason. You know, I had to learn from from having a tire blow that blew another tire, and now I'm out of spares and things like that. So it's part of the learning curves and being prepared and kind of having an answer. And the only way you do that is with experience. That's the only way you gain that is through experience.
Yeah. We'll I'm sure we're gonna have Adeline and Chris back on here at some point. But again, like what MJ brought up, like the little adventure me and them had a few weeks ago. I'm like you, Tristan, man. Things are always going wrong. I'm just mentally ready for them. I just kind of roll with it. It goes wrong, I stop and go, okay, how can we fix this in this moment? Our little, what I'm going to call our vacation with me, Adeline, and Chris, and Bree, was I had a great time. Here's the thing. Everything went wrong. We ended up in Atlanta. That was our last stop before me, Adeline, and Chris, went our own separate ways. But, like, there was a genuine sadness for me when I said, I don't want this to be over. I'm sad we're leaving. We're parting ways. And then, Bree was with us on the disastrous trip to Vegas. I get home after being gone for almost 10 days because we had to live on the road for 10 days. And I come home happy, let her know how great the vacation was. And she was part of that vacation. She thought I was fucking crazy. She said that was the worst fucking time she's ever had, hated everything about it. And I'm over here like, I am fucking sad it's over. And that's the best way to live, Trish. And honestly, man, I don't let a thing get me down anymore. I just expect shit to happen, and I just kind of roll with it.
Yeah, that goes back for me when I used to work for my uncle. I mean, we used to cut down trees and stuff like that. My uncle's kind of someone that installed the work ethic in me, and we did some crazy jobs, plowing snow, doing this, doing that. Shit happens. You just have to roll with the punches and pick it up and keep it moving. And there's always an answer, and you just have to come up with an answer. You have to find the best way out of that problem at that time. And if you keep that mindset and just think that way, then it's not going to drag you down. And I mean, yeah, of course, everybody gets stressed, and it's going to bother you, and things are worrisome. But at the end of the day, it's going to be all right. If nothing else, you make the best of your time. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you guys are aware, but one of my guys ended up leaving Tinley on a stretcher. Ended up in the
that was your guy. That was your guy,
yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
Okay, I heard somebody fucking roofied him. Did he get roofied?
No roofie.
Sick bastard.
No, he's an older gentleman that works with me. He drives the truck, and kind of hangs out with us at the shows. And he more or less it was just high blood pressure, but it's a couple spells happened, and I ended up in Tinley. Well, in Chicago, essentially, I didn't get home until that Wednesday afternoon. So I was stuck up there all the way, through that, and stayed in the hospital with him. But things stop. You just figure it out, and you make things happen, and you roll with the punches and keep it moving.
He's good. He's good though.
Everything's good. Heart checked out, head checked out. Man's good. He's doing great, and we love Schmitty. And
now that's a Tinley Schmitty will never forget.
That's right. Yeah, for sure.
Tinley seems to make their marks on you, like Dave at the podcast we had Friday night. I guess he wasn't ready for the consumption of chocolates that I gave him. Guess it brought him down a deep hole, but he still held on tight. It was a great episode.
I didn't realize there were so many almonds in the chocolate, and it really fucked up my whole night. Let's just say this. But now, here's my glass half full on this one. I didn't get to party at all on Saturday. I had dinner. I went to bed at like 7, 8 o'clock. So I pretty much pulled an all-nighter on Friday.
Oh, shit.
Maybe it's better off because more than likely the fact that I just pick up random drinks at the show, I could have been roofied. And I wouldn't have been roofied a little bit. I'd have been roofied a lot. So maybe me being in bed Saturday night was actually meant to be, buddy. That was the butterfly effect.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Listen, Dave, I'm gonna get a wrap up question ready. I have a wrap up question for Tristan. Just make sure when you have ready for this one. Okay, so Tristan, listen up. I gotta ask you. One of the biggest things that kind of came across my attention throughout interviewing certain people I look up to into this industry who've been doing this for a full time or as a professional. Some of them are like they don't think it's wise to just put a lot of money back into just the animals or whatnot. Like you should put a certain percentages in certain investments. Like what's your opinion on that? Do you have any other investments that you're into other than the animals and the product lines, or are you putting your money into real estate or anything like that?
No, I mean, honestly, we have pretty much bled everything into this up until this point. My goal has been to pretty much build this business to support me and my wife when she goes back to school. And we have pretty much delegated a lot of time to that. She's going back to nurse practitioner school here soon, and she will hopefully be getting her degree in that and then moving forward with that. But I mean, we focus on this. I do want to get into some real estate. But no, I mean, I've pretty much invested everything into this business and the product line that I carry and the animals that we have and building our show presence and moving into the website scene.
Dude, but do you believe it's wise though, like to do something other than just put it, especially if you keep making money, right? Like, do you feel like in the future, like you're saying, maybe it'd be wise to put your money into something else other than the animals or what it is that you're doing?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, I would love to have some real estate. I'm a handyman. I like to, do things like that. So that's definitely a plan, is to build real estate and have some homes that we can eventually remodel and do things like that. We just haven't necessarily got to that stage yet. We're still in our growing phase, essentially.
Respect.
My turn.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Tristan. Do you think the species that you picked to bring you into this hobby is where you're at right now, or do you believe you would have went with almost any species and still developed the business the way you developed it?
I think that the species got me where I'm at. I have had and still had up to years ago other species that we were working with, and it's always kind of fell back to the crested geckos. It's just seemed like it's always been the fit for me. I feel like I could have I'm confident that I could have done it with other species if I wanted to. I just feel like for me that crested geckos were what really hit home for me. And it's going back to pretty much what I believe in and my passion behind of it is, when I was a kid, my mom let me have anything I wanted to, and it's getting those parents to believe in and buy into something that's not spooky, scary, that doesn't have this, bad story behind it that they've heard. And crested geckos were that. And I mean, I've carried other species. We've carried bearded dragons pretty heavily at one time. Ventured into different snakes, ball pythons, boas, but it always just led back to the crested geckos, and that's kind of what my passion has always pushed me to.
Cool. I like it.
Well, listen, Tristan, hour and 50 minutes went by pretty quick. I'm not going to lie. We had just shy of 50 people tapped in for this live. By the way, thank you so much for everyone who tapped in. Make sure you get the likes up for Tristan. But Tristan, what do you have to say to all your supporters out there, man? Everyone who's basically rooting for you, but more importantly, just feeding off your energy and what you're putting out, man. What do you have to say to everyone out there?
Yeah, man, I just appreciate everyone that obviously supports us and follows us. And we look to continue to grow. One of our main things that we do as a business is we want to give great customer service and provide something to the customer base that's not necessarily there. We are human and we do make mistakes along the way, and we're still, learning as we go. We're trying to perfect this and build this business the best that we know how to, and the best of my knowledge of what I would want if I were on the other side of it. And we plan to grow it and continue to do shows and hopefully build a really nice website, and who knows, maybe one day we'll have a storefront. And we just look forward to seeing people at the shows. We've expanded into some new shows, some bigger shows, and we look forward to adapting and growing in those shows and giving the best that we can to all of our fans and all of our customers.
I got to say, if the storefront happens and it's up and jumping, do you think that would determine less shows at that point?
Yes, but I feel like eventually we'll still have teams. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'll be there, but we'll have distributors. So I want to move along the lines to where we still distribute our product through other people within the shows, whether we have a storefront, warehouse, whatever the case may be.
So Tristan Kaylor will only be at Tinley. Just kidding.
Yeah, the big shows. So
good shit. Dave, you have anything you want to tap out before we let Tristan leave here?
That's a wrap-up question, man. Like I said, I appreciate you taking me to the site at Baltimore years ago and just straight up saying, man, we need to do this someday. It took a couple years longer than we planned, but I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, and I was happy to be a part of it and kind of give some insight on where we've came from as a business and some of the growing pains and how we've grown. And it's always nice to tell your story and let people hear what got you where you are, because that's kind of the unwritten. It's the unknown, is not everybody knows the behind the scenes, and I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to do so.
Cool. Awesome, man.
Fucking A, Tristan. Well, listen, I'm sure we'll have you back on here again at some point. I got to say, Dave's that guy to bring some forces together, and man, appreciate meeting you. Thank you so much. And that's a wrap for Tristan Kaylor, ladies and gentlemen. See you later, Tristan. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks, guys. See you later. Have a good one.
All right. Later, bud.
Good shit, man. Great episode, I thought.
I think they're all good episodes, buddy. I feel like our rhythm is there now.
It really is. And I'm telling you, I don't think we need, I could just tell with the pauses and everything that it's my time to go. I can tell you sometimes that fucks it up is the connection. There's like a little bit of a lag, which is the only time it might overlap our questions, but I'm quick to back off. You're quick to back off. I think we're all good. I think like you said, the flow's there.
Yeah, I think, we talked about it, something I see on my end is when we interrupt each other, there is that pause in the video. There's that lapse time. So I'm always very hesitant to talking over somebody else. That's why there are these long pauses. But, look at the first episode. You did all the talking. Last episode, I did kind of do a lot of talking with Justin. This one, I thought we both interviewed a guy.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Thought it was awesome. And I think a lot of here's the thing, Dave, and I won't rely on you all the time on facilitating these guests, but I think the awesome thing about you picking out these guests are a lot more than I do about them. But the cool thing is I get to ask noob questions, and you get to ask questions that would be questions that I wouldn't even think of asking because I don't know them like that. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think that's a great dynamic.
Here's the thing, and exactly what you said is why I like doing this. A lot of the people I want to bring on are people I don't fully know. It's better to learn who the person is like this than already know who they are and then try to cherry pick what you want to ask them. So, no, I think this bringing on people that maybe neither of us are familiar with is really the way to go.
I know I'm not the only one to give you reach arounds, but I do want to end one of the live chat comments on this episode from the homie Denton Gallagher. Dave is the best, and why I have bought a handful of my snakes from him. Dave is truly a great breeder that helps the buyers out so much, and I truly appreciate him for that.
I try, and I appreciate that, but there's also people that say the opposite.
Not here, buddy. And Denton, I think your name is really cool. I think your comment's even cooler. What would have made this even perfect is a super chat. But listen, guys, moving forward, let's not be shy with the super chats, okay? Let's get the super chats going. And I think me and Dave are going to roll out something at least for the next, at least till next year, if not moving forward. How about we donate every single super chat to US ARC? No matter what it is, the amount, we don't give a shit. We'll donate every dollar amount at the end of the month to US ARC. Are you cool with that, Dave?
Honestly, I'm not here to make money. I'm just here to hang out with you and have conversations. If you want to do that, I'm all about it, buddy.
Well, I am here to make money. It's my job. But listen, I do love US ARC. I've supported US ARC. I still support US ARC. And I want this channel to start off the same way Trap Talk did. So next time, moving forward, guys, let's not be shy with the super chats. And guess what? Every super chat goes to US ARC. Support US ARC. And again, Denton, thank you for the great warm comment, because I do give Dave mad props. Dave, here's the thing, man. Listen, I I almost like I was thinking of a word to call you. Like I posted you earlier, like, well, hey, I'm going live with my buddy, you know. But you know, I don't know why I wanted to call you protege when I'm your protege. I had it mixed around, and what I mean by that is like you have so much shit that you are bringing just to my mind frame that I've never thought about just by asking certain questions that you're doing on this show. Like basically everything that you're doing here is going to elevate my trap talk, and I got to say thank you for that. You are definitely my mentor, and not only the reptile side of things, but in the podcast. Salute you.
No, like I said, man, I feel like we'll complement each other nicely. What you're thinking is not what I'm thinking. Like I said, your West Coast friends are not my West Coast friends. I'm looking forward to talking to your friends as much as you're talking to mine.
All right, man. Well, listen, guys, what a great night. Thank you so much. Again, this episode was brought to you by the freshest and bestest rodents delivered to your doorstep. Head over to Cold Blooded Cafe for your next frozen rodent order. Day one mice, straight hot pinks, baby. The tiniest pinky mice that you can get, all the way to the damn mammoth rats. But I got to say, shout out to the #1 company in the frozen thawed rodent game, Cold Blooded Cafe. Shout out to Desiree, shout out to Steven, and shout out to my man, Dave Levinson. Shout out to you guys for hanging in here and watching out this 2-hour episode, this 2-hour piece of gold. And Dave, 3 weeks in a row. Can we do 4? Can we do 4? Can we do 4?
We're doing 4. And as soon as we get done and we take it off alive, we're going to talk about what the next one's going to be between the two of us.
Okay. Well, you know what? That's for us to know and for people to find out when it's time. But guys, thank you so much for your time. Tristan, thank you so much for your time. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you never know when we're going to drop some more heat on this channel. Well, actually, you should know every Wednesday. Let's go. Have a good night. See you next time.
Later.